Our topic of the interview segment is prospects of solar energy in Africa. Today we hope to shed light on the promising technological advancements that are available for adoption, and we'll also be looking into the challenges that are hindering the widespread embrace and adoption of solar energy across the continent. My guest today, I have Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, retired, President and Founder, Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Experts. He's also an author. He's written 2 books on environment. He is a researcher with over 400 articles on climate change, deforestation, and the environment. You're welcome to Lens on Africa.
Beautiful to be here.
Thank you so much. My second guest is Mr. Suleiman Yusuf. He's a Managing Director and CEO, Blue Camel Energy Limited, a renewable energy company with over 15 years expertise in the sector. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. So let's go straight into our conversation. Now, we're talking about solar energy and the potentials in Africa. I'd like to start my questions with solar energy emerging as a viable alternative for electricity in Africa. How possible is this?
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Very, very possible. Very, very possible. As we stand now, the world does not have enough electricity. But the solar energy is not consistent enough.
Okay.
Take, for example, you know, the sub-Saharan Africa, that we're talking of Horn of Africa now, and the Sahel. That's the richest zone. Contradictorily, it's also the poorest. Because every material that you are looking for the solar renewable, all exists there. All exists there. Let's quickly come back to Nigeria. Nigeria has been on this trajectory to increase energy since 1866. But embarrassingly, we have not been able to move beyond 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. No, but last year you see that the solar mix was able to contribute about 16.4% to our electricity mix. Now you will now think that the government is in the right direction. That is the 2023 power sector reform. Now the objective was to bring a comprehensive way of mainstreaming all energy sources, including the renewable energy. The emphasis was in the renewable energy.
Okay.
But that is a policy document. How? You know, how is it aligned with the destination? The destination is the budget. It's the budget. Now you get the budget, the supplementary budget, and estray it. Look at it.
Wow.
Is it reflecting what the power sector reform is saying? No. See, in 2005, we have the same power sector reform, electricity power sector reform. Now, have we exhausted that policy? The answer is no.
Okay.
So, the renewable energy, see, is a very profitable venture for those who want to save costs and develop their energy. Don't forget, about 35,000 megawatts of if you accumulate everything that is existing or renewable energy in Nigeria, that's it. That is the quality.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, let's talk about the energy demand in Africa. It's consistently on the rise. Now, he has talked about, oh yes, there is a possibility of solar energy becoming an alternative source of energy in Africa. What prospects do you see for the adoption and the growth of solar energy in Africa?
You see, it's important to note that the population is on the rise.
Yes.
And even if the population was stagnant, the need for electricity is increasing with different technological, development, gadgets and equipment. So if you take yourself, for example, your electricity need, is increasing by the day. You need to charge your computers. You even need to charge your wristwatch now. Phones, moving around, electric vehicles. So definitely the need for electricity is on the rise. But the irony is, in Africa, I think we're registering the highest population increase right now.
Oh, really?
Yes, the population increase in Africa is actually...
As a continent, yes?
Yes, as a continent. So, and coincidentally also in the same Africa, We actually have the best, we're best position in terms of solar radiation.
Okay.
So when you look at these two things, you know, Africa's electricity generation from solar is still below 1% of the global solar electricity generation. 1%. And this is where the largest land mass is. This is where the population is more on the increase. And this is where we're still under industrialized, you know. So if you look at it, there is no other option. We really need to, you know, key into this solar alternative.
Okay, now, from what both of you have mentioned, we are going to get there whether we want to or not. But there is a challenge of embracing solar energy by Africans, you know. So what exactly is the issue? Is it lack of information? Is it availability? What would you say, sir?
Well, I won't say that they are not accepting it. They are accepting it. You see, it's the growing trend now. If you go to villages, you see almost every house, you see solar panel, very cheap. Because if you look at the cost of solar panel, depending on the quality anyway, it's between 50,000 to 150,000
for one panel.
Yes, for one panel. If you are looking at 1 kilowatt, you are talking about between 60,000 and 500,000, depending. But you see, everybody wants to go there, but it is it is getting out of their reach.
Okay.
But what do we do now? Like I said before, we were in the same environment with China and Indonesia. The interesting thing is that Indonesia has left the land has conquered the land in terms of solar panel, and they are not going into water. They are dealing with floating one. And again, too, China too just established the biggest. So here, like we were having an off-camera discussion, the government need to protect the startups. You need to protect the startup. Now, China as of today, they have almost 430 gigawatts from solar. So Indonesia has a capacity to power almost 50,000 households. We can do that. But if you still sit down today, interact with our budget, which direction? We need knowledge, skill, and competence. Our education needs to be retooled, reorganized.
I see. So you're taking the solutions not just from, or will I say, to government alone. You're looking at it from...
Yes. Let's create credentials. These children that we're having today, they are whiz kids. Let's create their credentials. Look, what you are going to do now, what the world is looking at now, they are not looking at how large you are or everything. They are looking at the credentials. They are looking at STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. How have we brought that into our system? Now, there are two things that have been very, very challenging to us as a nation. Till today, we are still having 3,000 megawatts of 3 to 4,000 megawatts of electricity, and we are still having, you see, our output barrel per day is still between 1.2 million per day and something 1.7. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia that we started with, since 1970, have all gone haywire. So what we need to do now is to settle down and address our educational system, to be purpose-driven, to have the orientation, so that our children, the children who are sending abroad, when they come back, look, who are they going to work with?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that point of view. Now, still talking about challenges that are limiting the advancement of solar energy in Africa. Apart from what he has mentioned, now he's talked about the next generation, talking about education. He's talked about the role of government. Are there other solutions that you can bring to the fore?
You see, certainly the challenges are multifaceted. You know, to start with, he spoke about capex, which is a major challenge. On the long run, solar is a cheaper source of electricity than the alternatives and options I have. But how many Nigerians can afford the capex? So in other countries, you know, there are financial solutions and systems that enable you to buy and pay without even feeling that you're paying. Okay. We need to incorporate more of that. We've seen quite a bit of that kind of development from Sterling Bank. They've been creating avenues where you could buy, own, and then pay over time. Okay. So we have that capex problem. But beyond the capex problem, you know, we have problems of policies, government policies. Every other country in the world sit down, set policies to suit and protect their own businesses.
Okay.
In Nigeria, the Nigerian entrepreneurs are just on their own. They're exposed to all kinds of multi-level taxes, levies, no kind of incentives, So all that's not encouraging the entrepreneurship in Nigeria. But worst of it is the fact that our borders are porous and open to other superior countries in terms of technology. And these countries are not only superior in terms of technology, they have better access to financing. I mean, there are countries where government give them money to go and, establish at zero cost of finance, 2.5%. Here, as an entrepreneur, as a business, for you to indulge or, engage in these businesses, you have to be thinking about 20-25% interest rate. How do you, manage that? Besides that, the issues of regulation, especially with our standardization, we really need to look at that, because Nigeria has become a dumping ground for substandard products or for cheap products from, other parts of the world. So these are all problems, especially also looking at the issue of technology transfer, of, the technological know-how, Solar should have gone way beyond where we are today.
Okay.
But at the onset, everybody rushed into it. There was no organized structure for training, for capacity building. Everybody became a solar expert. We're deploying left, right, and center. And it was followed by a massive failure, especially those investments made by government in trying to provide solar. They were the biggest failed projects.
I see.
Because government is not designed to implement some of these projects. They are supposed to create the enabling environment and allow the entrepreneurs to do the job.
Do that.
So these are a few of the key challenges
Okay.
that are hindering development of solar technology in Nigeria.
Now, riding on that, you mentioned, like he also mentioned, having access to funds and whatnot. Is that why it is directly almost not affordable?
Well, there are so many other faces to it. For example, our currency is so unstable and always depreciating to the foreign currencies where we import. We have a factory where we manufacture, but the cost of the raw materials that we need, is always unpredictable.
And
So
that's
all
what affects
these are
price
part
at the end of the
what
day.
is affecting price.
All right, because I was somewhere in this conversation, I was going to ask, is solar energy really affordable for the regular man on the streets? Now, you mentioned that, yes, you've talked about different ranges from 50,000 to 500,000, but it all depends on the quality. So is there really much point in buying something that is cheap, which is not going to last for the person? Is it?
Yes.
It's not effective at the end of the day.
We've been installing solar for the past 15 years, and
Okay.
we've probably installed over 2,500 in households.
Okay.
Let me tell you one thing that will interest you to know. There are residential buildings in this Abuja that pay as much as 5 million monthly for the electricity bill.
Okay.
5 million every month. Residential, not factories, not industries. And averagely, our average clients, that we've done solar for, they pay not less than 1 million every month for the electricity bill.
I see.
Now, when you combine that with the amount they spend on diesel, you probably see in between 2 million, 2.5 million monthly.
Okay.
So when I give you a bill for installing solar and it's looking 30, 40, 50 million, you just seem to shout that and feel like it's too high. But check 2 million naira over, probably 3 years and see how much that is.
I see.
So it's affordable, but the capex is high. So the trend we're seeing today is that businesses, hotels, industrial solutions, factories, they are able to, adopt more of solar, especially those that operate during the day, because if you operate at night, you need storage, and storage is very expensive.
Okay.
But if you operate during the day, then solar is the option for you to combine with whatever other sources of power that you have. But coming down to small home systems, I think it's gaining acceptance all over the country.
Okay.
Do remember also that most of those small home systems are only affordable because there is an intervention by government in terms of grant funding and some other kinds of support. But as a business, as a businessman, if you ask me to, provide solar where I can sell it, those urban, residents who spend money running generators to enjoy their TV and are happy to spend less, they are my first targets. Then we'll have the industries, we have hospitals, schools, not necessarily the rural populace, where we
Yeah.
have the highest number of Nigerians that don't have access to electricity.
Electricity.
So government needs to continue to support in terms
Okay.
with grants and other kinds of support to enable electricity reach these rural areas.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now let's talk about climatic factors and how they can either influence solar energy consumption. Is there any advantage? You know how Africa has peculiar climate. Is there any advantage?
Great advantage.
Okay.
Because when you use solar, it has your carbon footprint is drastically reduced. It produces next to nothing. But the question you will ask me is that how are you producing this solar? You are using generator and everything to produce it. So at the end of the day, you are not being able to strike. Will not be able to strike a balance because if until we get to renewable energy everywhere to be able to do these things. Let me shock you. What's the richest state in Nigeria? I know your mind will go to maybe Rivers. It's not. It's Benue, followed by Niger.
In
Yes.
terms of?
In terms of resources. Now, but they are looking at the wrong direction. Then the third one is Katsina. They are looking at the wrong direction. That Benue Trough has everything. It's one of the most enriched trough in the world. Wow. In the world. Then go to Niger State. Niger State, what is the problem of renewable energy? It's space. It is space. Now, when you spread it, Niger State have enormous space. Enormous space. And the two cheapest renewable energy is solar and wind. Now, go to Katsina State. You have so much of it. You have the wind is a vast land, very level. So, what are we doing? What is our policy on renewable energy? Because we are going to COP28 again now. What have we done? What are we taking there? Other countries have been able to function what they are taking. Now, you see, like if we develop the solar, we continue to reduce our carbon footprint, and our NDC, National Determined Contribution, carbon, will be reduced. And that's what the international world they are paying for now. They are paying for. It's not just for us to gather the largest delegation and send them to COP. That's not what. The world now, they are looking at credentials. When you get there, what is this man? Who is this man? Who is this man? What has he done? What? You are going to be having people like John Kerry, Attenborough, names that you can relate with climate change. So if you do that and you say, okay, now we have CNG, compressed natural gas. How are we orchestrating it to be able to go? So renewable energy, compressed natural gas, and all, they are all in the same category. What, at the end of the day, is to reduce the carbon footprint so that we can increase our NDC. So it is very, very significant that the world is looking at it. That is why there are countries now that are completely solar. See, Albania, Iceland, and Paraguay. 100% solar. Wow. Yes, because it's cheaper for them. And that will also be their trade-off at Conference of Parties. So we need to reorganize ourselves as a nation and align our policies with our destination.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, interesting. Now, talking about policies, do you think that there are policies or global collaborations that you can recommend, for Nigeria and other African countries for us to be able to step up in that solar adoption, solar effectiveness, and it's becoming like a way of life normally, like you have described two other countries have?
Yes. You see, the problem here is still education. It's still very low. It's still very low. Now, if you are low, the man is not able to comprehend whatever you are going to talk about. Now, if you look at the way of reducing our carbon footprint, take for example, you have about 15.8 million cars, registered cars, in West Africa, and Nigeria has 11.8 of these cars. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, how are you relating our compressed natural gas to this cars? What is the policy? What is the policy? Okay, how does the policy relate to the states? Okay, cars that were produced 1980, 90, like that. How are you bringing them into the compressed natural gas? Don't forget, you are not really doing anything because the compressed natural gas, you have it a lot here in Anambra, in Bida, and all. So those are the things that we should put together and be very proud about it, with a very strong policy, not just a policy of pronunciation. It should have a destination, and our budget should reflect that. Otherwise, if it's policy is just a paper, if you are not backing it up with a budget, so your budget direction should show how strong your policy is, so that you take it along that line. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. Now, still talking about global collaborations, as an entrepreneur with the years of experience that you have in renewable energy, do you think that there are opportunities for such collaborations by African entrepreneurs with other parastatals or organizations or governments outside of Africa?
I think so. I have always emphasized the fact that the government agencies are not positioned to execute solar projects. This is a specialized field, mind you. It's not something that should be politicized, So by the time the budget is being put together, it's coming constituency by constituency, and then there are people who have these projects put in there, and they insist on bringing the contractors that will execute. That's why we're having so much failure in the industry. Now, you'll be surprised to know, how much, unfortunately, we don't have the data, because there is a lot of smuggling of solar panels and other solar equipment into the country. But you'll be surprised to know how much solar is being installed every day by the seconds in Nigeria. And the bulk of this result is by entrepreneurs like myself.
Okay.
As a company, I just mentioned that we've installed over 1,800 residential houses, and if you take even street lightings, we've installed over 40,000 units of Nigerian-made street lights that we assemble locally here.
Okay.
So when you take the cumulative, installation being done by entrepreneurs across the country, believe me, the figures will shock you. So a lot is going on. Unfortunately, we don't have the data. But as a deliberate policy, government must look at these 3 or 4 areas. Number one, they must look at providing affordable financing, because we've identified energy as a problem, and other sectors of the economy cannot function well without this energy. So since that is already identified, then you have to make deliberate efforts to ensure that there is sufficient funding for the players in this industry at a very good and affordable rates.
Okay, because of time, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to cut you off. That's pretty much the size of what we can take on today's episode of Lens on Africa. Thank you so much, Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, retired, and also Mr. Suleiman Yusuf. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate your time.